All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On NHL podcast. It's the Thursday edition. So, of course, we have some power rankings to get to, which are obviously ranking the playoff teams. But we will also be diving into the series as they stand so far. All of them have at least one game in. As we are recording this, games are happening live. So we are going to be paying attention to those as we discuss where things stand so far in the NHL playoffs. New episode of Locked On NHL coming at ya, letting those dogs out with the Denky Dang.
For Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On NHL podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. From Locked On Lightning, he is Mr. Adam Denker. From Locked On Avalanche, I am Chris Maselli. And yeah, this is the Thursday edition, so we typically cover some variation of the power rankings. Today, it's going to be pretty simple. We'll throw up the power rankings of the playoff teams. So we have nobody eliminated yet. So we have 16 teams that will be up there, as well as discuss where things stand right now in as many series as we can get to during this next half hour. So we'll jump into it right now, Denker. Why wait? And if you are watching over on YouTube, I'm going to throw up those power rankings right now. And if you're listening in your car or at home and can't see them on the screen, I'll just go through them pretty quickly, and then we'll discuss whatever we get to between these teams or the series that are happening. Obviously, number one, you have the Boston Bruins. At number two is the Colorado Avalanche. Number three, Carolina Hurricanes. 4 is the New York Rangers. 5 is the Edmonton Oilers. 6, the Toronto Maple Leafs. 7 is the Vegas Golden Knights. 8, Tampa Bay Lightning. 9, Dallas Stars. 10, New Jersey Devils. 11 is Minnesota Wild. 12 is the Los Angeles Kings. 13, the New York Islanders. 14, the Winnipeg Jets. 15, the Seattle Kraken. And 16 is the Florida Panthers. And I probably should throw out there that a lot of this voting came before there was even a puck drop. Like we take votes for a couple days, but most votes come in like Monday morning, and the voting kind of stops like sometime early on Wednesday. So some people might look at this and be like, oh, well, the Kraken are up 1-0 on the Avalanche. How are the Avalanche 2 and the Kraken are 15? That's why. It's a fluid thing. And when you have games kind of as quickly as you do in the playoffs, how these sit right now, I'm sure if we did them this minute, it would look obviously different. So that's what we have right now. What are you thinking so far with these rankings, sir?
I mean, like you said, puck didn't even drop when they was put down. Does really one game determine if a team falls or rises in the span of a playoff? Not really. Mm-hmm. I feel like for a lot of series that we're going to talk about, honestly, a lot of these series are just going to reset after game 2. And what I mean by that, obviously, is we're probably going to have a lot of tie series after game 2. I'd be shocked if we don't have any.
How many do you think? Let's just go right into stuff. Fast and Furious today, my man.
All right.
Fast and Furious 12.
I'll start with the Eastern Conference. So right now, Boston's up on the Panthers in their series. That game is currently tied at 2 in the second intermission.
Yeah.
Tampa's up on Toronto. They play tomorrow night. The Islanders and the Hurricanes are playing right now. Carolina's up in that series 1-0, and they're currently also tied with 39 seconds left in the third period. So that's going to OT. And the Rangers are up 1-0 on the Devils. So we'll start with the Eastern Conference. Okay. Honestly, I would be shocked almost with the Boston series if the Panthers are able to tie this up. I just think the Boston Bruins are just a significantly better team than the Panthers. I just feel like, and this is no disrespect to the Panthers, and just because I cover the Lightning doesn't mean I'm being biased here, but I just think that the Panthers kind of just almost accidentally fell into a playoff spot, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Penguins faltered in a huge way in those last two games. Right? Yeah. And so I just think that the Bruins are just going to prove too much for them, and I think they're going to take this series to 2-0.
But it is interesting to see the Panthers kind of give them a run. I mean, as we're recording this right now, it is, like you said, the second intermission. It's tied at 2. I just feel like that series is one where the Panthers would do this, tied at 2 in the second intermission at home. I really didn't give the Panthers much of any chance for the 2 games in Boston. And who knows, like, you know, when they come out in the third, maybe Boston rips off 4 goals, you know, in the third period. Yeah. By the time you're listening to this in the morning, you know if that's happened or not. But I didn't really think the Panthers could hang with them, especially at home. That is a tough place to play. So give them a little bit of credit for doing that. And you have as we're recording this, the Islanders and Hurricanes are going to overtime. So again, give credit to the Islanders, because I didn't really think, maybe on a lesser extent, but I was kind of in the same ballpark with them and the Hurricanes. I thought the Hurricanes would kind of handle them relatively easy being in Carolina. You don't?
I would have to disagree. I mean, I think that this series would be a little bit closer, and that's just because these teams play very similar. You know, they play very good defense. They have a lot of guys on their teams that can score. You know, it's not just a handful of guys. You know, it's not like the Islanders are that stereotypical wild card team that has maybe 1 or 2, 3, 4 or 5 guys that could do, you know, really only the only production that they have. I mean, really every line you could get something out of this Islanders team. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders tie this up tonight. Now we'll save the Lightning series for last, but let's go over to the New York Jersey series. I mean, let's talk about that real quick, Chris. What were your were you surprised that the Rangers won by that much?
Yeah, absolutely. I pegged this thing as going 7 games. Yeah. I went back and forth. I think this was the most difficult series for me to pick in my bracket ranking, whatever they did on the NHL site. This one, it was just tough. I could just see this going either way, and I thought these were going to be pretty tight games all throughout. And I don't know what to make of this. I really didn't see this coming, because is it the Devils just not having been there for a little while, and a lot of these guys on this team not having been there? It's a young team, you know, with a lot of your core guys. It's kind of their first playoff series. Were they just a deer in headlights? And the Rangers have a lot more of that veteran presence, and they just seemed like more calm, cool, and collected, where the Devils were just so out of sync, It was crazy. Is it just they got that game out of the way and now they can just settle down and focus on playing their style of hockey? I don't know. We'll have to see.
I think it's that. I think this is just the case of a young team. First game, you're feeling things out. You know, you're at home. That can be nerve-wracking for some young teams. I mean, then again, you know, game in Jersey kind of doesn't really feel like a home game when you're playing the Rangers, to be honest.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So I just think that maybe this was just the game that the Devils just need to file away and realize, okay, we know what we need to do. I mean, are the Rangers going to be able to win games like that with Ryan Lindgren scoring highlight level goals? I think not. I don't think that's sustainable. I think that this is going to be a close series. It also depends on Igor Shesterkin, because he had a wonderful night last night. He did. And other than that penalty shot that Jack Hughes took, he would have had the shutout.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's 2 really overwhelming factors. It's the youth for the Devils, and then if Igor Shesterkin could stay at the level that he's at right now.
It could be if he plays like that, it might not go 7 games, but that one really surprised me. But maybe not as much as what Tampa did to Toronto. and we'll talk about that in a quick second here. But first, we have to talk about Built.com and Built Bar, and something's going on over at Built.com, Mr. Denker. We don't really know what it is, but they're telling us that something exciting over at Built.com is happening on April 22nd. That's just a couple days away. We don't have the details, but apparently the excitement is real, and it's something you won't want to miss. And if you know how Built works, they have the most incredible protein bars in the world, and they do amazing flavor drops with unreal flavors in limited quantities. So we're kind of giving you a heads up to check Built.com April 22nd early, because whatever this is, we genuinely don't know. They just gave us a tease just to say get there on April 22nd, and they do have these limited quantities, and when they are gone, they are gone. So if they're not telling us what it is, I have to assume it's something pretty incredible. So mark your calendars, head to Built.com Saturday, April 22nd. Be the first to discover what all the hype is about. It's going to be interesting. So make sure you can also use the promo code LOCKEDON15. That's LOCKEDON15. And you'll get 15% off of your order, your entire order, including whatever this limited edition is. I, for one, cannot wait. All right. Can you, Denker? You can't.
I can't. I can't hide my excitement right now.
Can't. Yeah.
I can't wait to gravitate towards this sphere of excitement.
Yeah.
So
all right. Let's get to your game, man, because not one that people were excited for this one. I think as far as excitement goes, say what you want about Toronto and Tampa pretty much having their matchup set in stone since November. A lot of people are looking forward to it, and kind of for that reason, right? It's you guys are just kind of stuck, attached at the hip. And in Toronto, you have game one in Toronto, people going crazy, and Lightning dropped the hammer. The hammer of Thor was dropped in Canada by a score of 7-3. Give it to me, man. What was it? Was it Tampa just again rising to the occasion in the postseason, or was it Toronto just laid an egg, or a combination of the two?
I think it was a combination of the two, and I just got done recording talking about this, and really what I said, what happened in this game was a combination of two things. It was us finally seeing Tampa flip the switch, which we've been hearing about. If you've been covering if you've been listening to my podcast all year, or just following the Lightning all year, we've been waiting for them to flip that switch, and that's kind of, I guess, the most stressful thing about following this team is that if they're waiting towards the playoffs to flip the switch, they do have their struggles during the regular season where it's like, if you don't flip the switch now, you may not make the playoffs. But
right.
They, in stereotypical Tampa Bay Lightning fashion, game one of the playoffs, they turn it on. They put their foot, they kick the Maple Leafs in the teeth a minute in, and they didn't let up. And it turns out it results in the first period ending and the Maple Leafs getting booed off the ice, which I cannot believe. I was shocked. They're down 3-0, and I get it, but I mean, this just shows how significant the pressure is for Toronto. And they did play well as the game went on. They showed a better effort in the second period. I really think Samsonov really just kind of let the game get away from him. He ended up getting pulled from this. But for any Maple Leafs fans that might say, well, it's over now, this is the same old Leafs, I wouldn't be too sure about that. I would not be shocked if we just see a role reversal in game two. I was talking on the crossover with the Locked On Leafs guys, David and Mike, and I was saying I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar to last season. These two teams, none of these teams won a game on the road last year. So
forgot all about that, man. Wow. That's right.
So really what it came, until game 7, obviously, when the Lightning won in game 7 in Toronto. So I wouldn't be surprised. And listen, the Michael Bunting suspension kind of complicates things for the Maple Leafs, but at the same time, the Lightning are riddled with injuries as well. So this is going to be an interesting series. I'm really excited, obviously, for it because I get to follow it. I get to cover it. But I think, maybe in your unbiased opinion, Chris, this has to be one of the most exciting matchups we've had thus far, East or West.
Yeah, I'm, outside of the series that my team is in, I think the two that I have most excitement about are the Rangers and Devils, and this one, for a number of reasons. And it's not just the matchup between the two teams. It's, can the Lightning turn it on again in the playoffs? And then it's your regular storylines. Just another year later, can Toronto get out of the first round? That's still must-watch hockey.
Yeah.
So nobody is sitting here saying like, "Oh God, Tampa and Toronto again." Like, this is getting boring. Nobody is saying that. People are watching this thing, and it's, I get it. I get why Toronto fans. You start the game, you're going crazy. You're blowing the roof off of that arena. And then 20 minutes later, you're booing them. I understand it, but man, like, it can just turn that quickly. And let's see what Toronto does. This is the beauty of the NHL playoffs, is whoever loses, adjustments need to be made. and will Toronto make those adjustments? We'll see. I mean, I think the one thing that they can hang their hat on, both teams were 50% on the power play. Just the difference is one was 2 for 4 while the other was 4 for 8. Good Lord. I mean, you have to stop that. You have to stay out of the penalty, but you cannot take.
And that was one of the question marks coming into that game, Chris, was could the Lightning capitalize? Because there was going to be a plethora of penalties in this game and throughout the series, but the Lightning did. I mean, and like I said, it could easily flip-flop. And real quick, before we get into the West, who'd you pick to come out of this in your bracket?
In the East?
Yeah, out of the Lightning Toronto series.
Oh, I you're my boy, but I picked Toronto.
That's fine.
In 7. Yeah,
that's fine.
7.
But pick your friends, people. Yeah. Pick them wisely. All right, so let's go over to you guys.
But quickly, again, because this is all happening live. The Panthers are up 3-2. Wow. Panthers took a 3-2 lead. 16 minutes left. So
new headline is Ullmark done in Boston. We'll talk about that in the next episode.
The bug got to the Bruins, basically. Yeah. All right, let's head head west, and we'll kind of talk about those series so far. Which one do you want to start with? Take your pick.
I want to start with you guys, because that was something that you're not ready to talk about it.
Fine, yeah.
Let the healing begin, Chris.
Whenever there's a loss that happens, and whenever you lose the first game of a series, whether like the talk around fan circles and social media is obviously one of doom and gloom, and that is kind of what's going on through Avs Nation right now. They didn't win, so they didn't play well enough to win. So obviously you need to change things. But did they play so horribly bad that like we're just throwing in the towel? I personally don't think so. And I know that's not a popular opinion among like the Avs faithful right now, but they made their share of mistakes, no doubt about it. But the one thing that the Avalanche do as well or better than anybody in the league, those adjustments that I was talking about, they make them. You will not get I went through on yesterday's episode just bullet points of things that they did that they were just off a little bit, which you don't expect a team at this stage in the season to be off that little bit. I expect those mistakes, those minimal mistakes, to be corrected, and it's just those things that are the difference between winning and losing in the playoffs.
Right.
So I don't expect the Avalanche to do those things again. I don't want to go through them now. We don't have the time, but go listen to Locked On Avalanche yesterday if you want to hear those things. But they didn't play well enough to win, and that's the bottom line. And I think they will. They've shown so many times in the past that they can turn things around.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Seattle had a fantastic game plan. Seattle did a very good job defensively. They made life difficult for Nathan McKinnon. But, again, if you're the Avs fan and you look at that, like, yeah, despite them really giving Nathan McKinnon a difficult time, he still managed 7 shots on goal. He had opportunity because he can do that, because he's otherworldly. It's still, I'm still confident in this team. My confidence hasn't wavered. It's just when you don't get off to a 1-0 lead, that day off, you're just stewing on it, and you kind of build things up in your mind. And I think the Avalanche will be fine in game 2. I think you'll see a much different game.
And with the Kraken, we just got done with the East talking about being too big for the moment. Now, yeah, they took game 1, but do you see a scenario now? Obviously, their expansion seemed so a little bit different than like what the Devils or, maybe what Toronto's going through in a way. Do you think that we could see a moment where it's too big for them? I mean, they do have the talent. They have guys that have been there before.
They have a few, yeah. But here's the thing. I wonder, as a team, right, as like a unit, is what is better for the Kraken in terms of how they could play a little bit like more freely and loose, being down 1-0 or being up 1-0? Where's more of the pressure?
Right.
Being up 1-0. So now we'll see. Like, this is all new to this franchise. No matter whether or not you were down 1-0 or up 1-0, clearly now you're up 1-0. They've never had to play with a lead in a series before. And not only is that lead, you're going into game 2, but that lead is still in the other team's barn.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Like, I picked the Avs in 5 in this thing. I really thought they were, because they ended the season hot, and I thought they would continue that into the postseason. And in game 1, they didn't. Did they play well enough to win? In moments, you were like, okay, they're turning it on here. And then it would just fizzle out. And I think a lot of that is because of the game plan the Kraken had. So you give them a ton of credit. So we'll see. All right, let's hear from eBay Motors before we break down the rest of the West. So for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only, and exclusions apply. All right, continuing on with the East. I'll bring these power rankings back up, leave those up on the screen so people can see them. Where are we heading next, sir?
Let's go Dallas, Minnesota. And I really, let me just preface by saying I haven't watched a lick of any of these Western Conference games.
Okay, so I have another update for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
4-2 Panthers over the
man.
Bruins. 13 minutes left. And this series that you just brought up, the Stars and the Wild, is underway. And the Stars already have a 1-0 lead there.
There we go. Because I was just that's a great
Islanders and Hurricanes are still in overtime. That is still 3-3. So go ahead.
That's a great segue into what I was going to say. I really expected, and now, like I said, this is one game. So, but I'm shocked. I was shocked when I saw that the Stars lost game 1. I think what a lot of people are having high hopes for the Stars to almost steamroll through the Wild and kind of just.
I don't think so, man.
Really?
Go ahead. Like we might as well just have just crossed out games 1 through 6 and just go to a game 7. I just personally feel like this thing is game 7 written all over it.
Really?
I do. I just think
And
these are.
what is for the people like me who are not that familiar with the Wild? What gives them almost the edge to push this
They
to
are
7?
a physical team, and not that the Stars aren't. I think both of these guys are both of these teams. They are evenly matched in a lot of different ways, with the exception of goaltending. You have to give the goaltending edge to Dallas, and that's where they could pull through in this thing in 7 games. But we've already seen it, what Minnesota will do to you from the physical side of things. And you're already without Pavelski in this game, and that was a pretty rough hit. I can't imagine he'll be back for game 3 either. So and the Wild have guys. Obviously, you have Kaprizov, who he's one of the best in the league, right? So they can hang with them in terms of scoring. The one area is the goaltending. Well, actually, you have to get that to the Stars, but I just see this thing as a slam dunk 7th game series. It could always be wrong, obviously, but I just see that's where it's going.
I mean, the goaltending, I wouldn't write out Marc-Andre Fleury just yet. I think he's got one more in the. You think he's no?
No, I mean, yeah, he's everybody loves him, but it's the writing's on the wall for him. Like, can he really get Minnesota like deep into the playoffs? But here's the thing: like, if you get to a game 7, you have all the confidence in the world that he can lift his game up. He's been there before,
of course.
So why not, right? So we'll see. We'll see. We got. We'll do the Jets and the Golden Knights. That could be one of the biggest surprises after game 1. 5-1 Jets over Vegas. I just think that's just an aberration. I don't really. Then again, I really liked how the Jets were playing early in the year, and they were just faltering and just like tripping over themselves, like Pittsburgh Penguins style. So this is the beauty of the NHL playoffs, man. Like, nobody really thought the Kraken could get over on the Avs, and nobody really thought Winnipeg would do anything to Vegas, and they stuck it to them on Vegas's ice. So we'll watch that one. But I think a lot of people are obviously interested in what the Kings and Oilers are going to do.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one?
I honestly think that this is it's an exciting game. I mean, exciting series, because you kind of see the ongoing storyline as always. Can McDavid get over that hump? Can Edmonton get even closer to a Stanley Cup final? I mean, they were close last year against the Avalanche. And then you have the Kings, who kind of were up and down to start the season, and they have a good mixture, I think, on their team. Young talent, old, veteran leadership there as well. They're an exciting team, and
they really are.
I would really like to see, how Quentin Byfield fares in the playoffs. One of the young up and coming faces in the NHL, but at the same time, I mean, if I had to pick one team in this, it has to be Edmonton. I can't see Connor McDavid allowing the Oilers to lose this series. I just feel like we're going to see, especially if their back's up against the wall. We might see one of the greatest playoff performances from a player.
I mean,
if he needs to do it.
He was skating all over the place in that game, but 0 points. No points in game 1. And with every passing year, you look at the guys like McDavid and Matthews, be like, when are they going to break through? Yeah, the Oilers were close last year, and they ran into a buzzsaw known as the Colorado Avalanche. And Matthews, is on that Toronto team, which we all know what their struggles are right now.
Yeah.
So, for the league wants those guys to go as far as humanly possible. And like I said, Edmonton close, no cigar. Can they get over that hump? And for Matthews, it's just not good enough just to do one series. Like it is, you don't win if you win this first round. It's just not, be like, all right, season's a success.
Yeah.
No, like you're going for it all. So if both these guys, if that's the Stanley Cup matchup, holy God, is that what the NHL would? That's marketing heaven. But they just haven't been able to get there just yet, and that just speaks to how difficult getting there is. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Carolina Hurricanes end it in overtime. So they are now up 2-0 in that series. They win that 4-3. Panthers are still up as we record this 4-2, halfway through the third. And Dallas, it's still a 1-0 game there. So anything to wrap this up this week, sir? What do you let's go focus back in on your series. What are you thinking for game 2?
I'm thinking a reverse. I'm thinking of a role reverse. I just think that Toronto's too good, especially at home, to keep down. Mm-hmm. And you know, the Lightning are a little banged up. Eric Chernak's out for game 2. Victor Hedman's a game time decision. He's probably going to play, but you never know. Tanner Jeannot's going to play, and Mike Yesimon's out. So a little bit of flip flopping in the lineup. But if we see a performance out of this team early on, and especially on the special teams, I don't see a reason as to why the Lightning can't go back home with a 2-0 lead. But then again, like I said, Toronto's they're too talented to go back to Tampa down 2-0.
Tampa will not take them lightly. That is for sure. Even though they ran over them in game 1, that won't happen. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you for tuning in to the Thursday edition of Locked On NHL and making it your first listen of the day. It's always appreciated. Enjoy the playoffs if your team is in it. Enjoy the series. If you're just an NHL fan, there's no better time. So we'll go full screen if you're watching on YouTube with those power rankings of the playoff teams. And Mr. Denker and I will be back next week with a fresh batch of power rankings. Enjoy the playoffs. We'll see you guys next week.